Good to go.
Call the meeting to order tonight. It is the May 13th meeting of the City of Earhart Budget Committee. All committee members are present. We have a quorum. I would like to start by requesting consensus to accept our revised agenda. There are two small changes to the agenda. About 2/3 of the way down the page under Budget Committee discussion on proposed programs and services. A line has been inserted in the middle saying Budget Committee discussion. This was always going to take place, but it wasn't specifically spelled out, so it was added. The other small change is at the end, to approve and send to City Council for adoption. In the text of the proposed motion has had the word amended added at the end of the first line because there have been some adjustments and changes to the draft you received at our last meeting. Those are small changes. If I could just have a voice vote of consensus to accept the amended agenda, all in favor, please.
Aye.
And opposed. All right, thank you. Next, I want to move to a declaration of any conflict of interest. And before I open that up, I want to read a helpful explanation that Justine has given me, because I know that there are people on the committee who volunteer with the organizations that have applied for grants. And so I just want to define a little more carefully what a conflict of interest would be. Being a community participant in a local organizational group does not create a conflict of interest. A conflict of interest would be participation in an official action that could result in a financial benefit to a committee member or a relative. You don't stand to benefit financially from any award we would grant tonight. You are not in a conflict of interest. Does anyone have anything they would like to declare? No.
No.
Thank you. Now moving on to the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And may I have a motion to approve the minutes? And then we will have discussion.
Move to approve the minutes of the 15 April meeting.
Have a second?
A second.
Is there any discussion, corrections to the minutes? I have one question on page 3.
Did you bring yours?
Hmm?
Did you bring yours?
Eric, can I borrow your minute?
Yeah, they're not sitting, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Bottom page 3, and next to the last line,
yes.
is receipt supposed to be recipient?
Yes.
That was
That's a
a
change.
Oh, that's fine.
Page 3. Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
As
Oh, there you have it, there you have it.
Do we need to amend it to, with the changes? You amend your motion.
I move again, we approve the minutes of last meeting.
As amended.
As
As
amended.
amended.
Thank you.
I second again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. It's time to open the public hearing. At this time, we will open a public hearing regarding the state revenue sharing for the city of Earhart fiscal year 2025 and 26. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Budget Committee to hear this matter at this time? Hearing none. I will ask again, does any Budget Committee member believe they have a conflict of interest?
No.
No.
Thank you. Is there any additional correspondence?
No, there's correspondence.
Before I ask our applicants for their presentations, I just want to say one thing. And that these are challenging times for our city and our country, in fact, but I'll stick to our city. Tonight, the Budget Committee will be asked to make difficult choices about what we'll do with our funds. And before we started, I just want to acknowledge on behalf of the committee, the important contribution that every organization that applied for funds makes for our community, and we are grateful and acknowledging for the work they're doing. I agree.
You're here.
So, I don't have a clip.
Yeah, do we have people here that are coming to the state or to share? Correct, yeah, wanna start?
Point of order, can we just do a test to determine if they can be heard by Christie? If they
yes.
stay back there or if they need to be closer to the microphone, because I know we've had problems with our system in the past. Christie, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, there's no sound issues.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, my name is Linda Weiss, and I am president of the board of directors for the Trails and Art Association, your neighbor, just right across the street. And we are, once again, submitting a request for funds. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We received that designation in 1950, so we are actually celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. And we have lots of fun things planned for the community, especially since it is part of our mission to make sure that we bring the appreciation of arts to the community, or the community, pardon me. And we are all volunteer. We are a cooperative organization. We have no paid employees. We have around 65 members right now. And we are looking at, because of our move to have more activities in the park adjacent to us. And especially over the summertime, we are having an event for the Art Walk on July 5th outside. Our annual judge show is the first Saturday in August, and part of that takes place outside. And then we have, of course, other things going on into the fall. But we're looking to purchase 2 outdoor canopies and 2 indoor-outdoor portable tables. We have tables, of course, in our studio area, but they're very old, they're very clunky and very hard for our members to move in and out of the building. And also to replace some of our 65-year-old wooden easels that are taller than me and almost too heavy for me to move around. And additional folding chairs. And I'm not sure if, do you need to know the total amount now of our request, or? You can tell them if you like. Or, okay, we are asking for all of those items, the estimated cost is $1,700.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Questions? Any questions for?
Did you ever complete your bathroom remodel?
Oh, and it is so beautiful. They lined the walls inside with cedar, and it's
Oh, well.
it's lovely. Yes, you need to come by just to that. Can I say one more thing about Kevin? Okay, we also on this coming June Art Walk, the first Saturday in June, we will be unveiling what we believe is the entire Oregon Coast first flag, which stands for Free Little Art Gallery. It's on the same principle as a Free Little Library, where our members will have miniature pieces of art in there that children and adults can come and remove, and they can add their own. We have a little workstation attached to it with some supplies where they can create their own artwork to place in there. And we will be having a ribbon cutting ceremony and all kinds of things. So if you can join us about 3 o'clock on that first Saturday, we would love to see everybody there. So thank you.
I had
Thank you.
a quick question for you.
Yes.
How often would the canopies be used?
Well, we have, probably, I would say, we will try to have a couple, 3 events, actual events during the summer months when we would use them. But if we had them, there is no reason why we would not use them for like our quarterly membership meetings to be outside in nice months, or to have some of our members do plein air art demonstrations during art walks. I mean, I couldn't give you an exact number, but it just opens the possibilities
Okay.
for us immensely.
Super, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kevin Leahy. I'm the Executive Director of CEDAR, Classic Economic Development Resources, and also Associate Vice President of Classic Community College. And I'm here this evening to update on the request for the CEDAR organization. And CEDAR has been in existence since 2008. The city of Gearhart was a founding member of CEDAR, along with the other 4 cities here in Clatsop County. Clatsop County itself, Clatsop Community College, and the Port of Astoria. They are including yourself, are the permanent members of CEDAR. We also have our private sector members of CEDAR that represent the different key industries here throughout Clatsop County. We have a board of 21 members currently. Councillor Gold is currently on our CEDAR board. And I wanted to say that CEDAR represents the business community. We're here to be the voice of the business community. And I said here in my write-up that CEDAR exists to be the voice of the community at the local, state, and federal level. Funding support is critical to sustain our operation. And I also oversee our small business development center at Clatsop Community College, our Clatsop Works paid internship program, and the non-credit parts of the college. But this is here talking about CEDAR. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We're at the table at many meetings. I said in many meetings, we have monthly manager meetings that Chad is also part of, that we sit with all the county manager, city managers, and other partners to talk about issues that we face more than the staff side, to assist in each other to build our economy, and also to be answering questions that we have. And I'm asking for $3,000. The CEDAR budget, again, on the funding that's come from the other parties. The city of Cannon Beach has funded since the beginning 2008, $3,000. We received from the county lottery funds of $70,000. We received from the cities of Seaside and Astoria $13,000, and the city of Warrenton $7,500. Port of Astoria is $1,000. And again, city of Gearhart is a permanent member of our organization. Last year, we missed, unfortunately, your filing deadline to submit our request. So that was the first year of my 14 years as director that we did not have the city of Gearhart's funding behind it. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has this evening.
Kevin,
Yes.
can you be a little bit more specific on where you intend that $3,000 to go to?
Well, the $3,000 that goes is to support like my payroll, part of my payroll. Also, I have a dedicated assistant here in South County. 25% of her salary and benefits is paid for by CEDAR. We also pay the college $9,000 a year to have our offices here in South County and Seaside. We have our Astoria offices also. That's more on the small business development center side. But it's really for the most part for payroll and benefits, because we're very lean. The CEDAR budget itself is around $142,000. It's kind of maybe a little confusing sometimes, because being the director also of our small business development center, we receive grant funding from the Small Business Administration, from Business Oregon, and from the college. And that money allows us to provide free and confidential advising to businesses of all sizes. But the very good question, this specific is for payroll representation. I'm also on the COLPAC, the Columbia Pacific Economic Development Board, and also on Business Oregon Advisory for the Regional Solutions. We've had meetings with the mayor before and city manager and others. So it's really just, again, for the stakeholder side of it. And you had a question, sir?
I did. On your application, you have projected revenue, City of Astoria, 13,500, and Seaside, 500.
Correct.
Now, we were given tonight nicely, revenue sharing proposals from, or not proposals, results, I guess. Yeah, from both City of Astoria and the City of Seaside. And I don't see Cedar listed as a recipient from either.
So that's correct. City of Deerheart is the only city that funds Cedar through this fund.
Okay,
We have from I'm looking at it, this was, what I submitted was the actual from last year. I put, the proposed will be voted on at our Cedar board meeting in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So this was the actual 13,500. It comes from other funds, urban renewal funds, our general fund.
not
Most of it-
state revenue share.
Correct.
So-
Deerheart is the only,
Okay,
party that does that.
okay.
That's the way it's
Have
been
you
modeled.
been awarded already through those other funds from?
We
Astoria?
have I am submitting our board, my budget for next year at our May 27th board meeting. And, we have our Cedar board officers, and again, these dollars are not going up in the request side.
Mhm.
So like the city of Astoria, actually, the actual was 13,500, Seaside was the actual 13,500, et cetera. The numbers I quoted were the actual from last year.
Right.
We're not asking to have the numbers go up, but for again, and also from the county, it comes from lottery funds,
Mhm.
because they have to allocate a certain percentage of their dollars for economic development. The county gets, I can't remember, it's like $350,000, and Cedar gets $70,000 for economic development from video lottery funds.
Okay.
So we appreciate City of Deerheart as a family member, but it's very unique in how it's funded.
I see.
That's the part. So very good question, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any other questions for Kevin?
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Darren, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you so very much. I actually have two presentations tonight. Really fast, yeah. Feel like I'm talking to the back of the folks' head over here. That's never fun. So, yeah, I actually have two presentations tonight. We want to talk to you first about the South County Community Food Bank over here in Seaside. We have a mission. Our mission is very simple. It's to provide a 3 to 5 day supply of emergency food to anyone that comes into our pantry. We get a lot of folks that come up from Dana Beach. We get a lot of folks from Deerheart. We get a lot of folks from the south part of Warrenton. So we actually cover a really, really big area. We serve on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12:45 to 4 p.m. We do this pretty strategically, and the strategy behind that is to make sure that that we mesh with the other pantries, with St. Vincent de Paul. Here at Deerheart, we have the Canada Beach Food Pantry. What we try to do is coordinate our times around their open times, so folks have access to food 5 or 6 days a week. I know St. Vincent de Paul does one Saturday a month. We have also Manna House that is open by appointment. So it's a very strategic approach to making sure that folks have access to food just about every day of the week here in our part of the county. So I included with my packet a report supporting food bank monthly EFD pantry food resource and distribution form. And the reason that I include this is this is something that I give to my board members at the beginning of every new year, kind of wrapping up the prior year's numbers. And it's always amazing to see the amount of folks that come through looking for food assistance over the course of a year. We look at the number of households back in 2024. We had a total of 2,802 households. That represents 8,984 folks that are receiving food through our pantry. We have listed 804 homeless folks, and that's kind of a misnomer. This might not be the folks that really are truly living on the streets. We made a change about partway through last year. A board member suggested that we try to track the number of people that just might not have an address, but they're living with a friend, kind of couch surfing, that kind of thing. So those numbers kind of appear a little bit higher. So it's not truly folks that are houseless. But we thought it fair to be able to capture those numbers as well. I have about 35 regular volunteers in the pantry. We put in about 4,661 hours last year. So that's how our pantry operates. I have one paid staff. Her name's Jenny. She's a part-time person, works about 20 hours a week. And then does occasional pickups here and there when she gets a phone call from a grocery outlet or someplace like that. We actually totaled for last year, we had 145,000 pounds of donations that came in from folks like our statewide donors, like Safeway and Costco, Dollar General, Natural Grocery, Grocers, Wyndham, Rite Aid. Total poundage of food last year, 218,000 pounds of food. That's up about 17,000 pounds from the prior year, 2023. I think we had 201,000 pounds. So really an absolutely amazing amount of food coming through our food pantry that getting distributed to folks. So very, very little goes to waste. And we have a pig farmer who picks up our barrels out back. So if we have something like bread, just absolutely doesn't make it until the next week. Then that goes in the barrel and the pig farm picks it up. And so one more opportunity to get eaten before it returns to nature. So as a corner. So questions I can answer through this. Can I ask how we go with, I believe it was freezers last year that funds were going to be directed toward? Yes. So we got the freezers purchased. We had the electrician come in. We had issues with breakers popping. So apparently it's not good to put a freezer on a circuit that has a GFCI. So come to find out there were no GFCI outlets, but the breakers, they were on the breaker in the panel. So they changed those out and we were all good. We have had no freezer issues other than our power outages and whatnot. So we had earlier this year.
So did that kind of expand the food that you could store and then provide out?
Yes,
bigger
that's
rather than
opened up a
waste?
lot of storage space. I noticed that when I was in the other day, we apparently somebody got a goose to lay the golden egg because we were sitting on a mountain of eggs and we were actually able to accommodate that. So that happens really pretty regularly. We'll get a phone call from one of the seafood producers up in Astoria saying, hey, we've got a half a ton of fish that we'd like to give to you. It's frozen. Can you take it? So, when those opportunities come up, we want to really capitalize on that. Have that space, and it's made all the difference in the world. So it really has. Thank you.
Any other questions about this part of Darren's presentation?
Just one more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you mentioned that you can provide food, how many days a week?
We provide 2 days a week, Tuesdays and
2 days.
Thursdays.
Right, and that you mentioned St. Vincent de Paul would do just once, as far as you know, they do one Saturday a month.
But what they do 2 days a week. They do Mondays and Fridays.
Okay, we'll come
and then one Saturday a month.
Oh, and one Saturday.
Yeah.
So, right, and then, do you know, maybe we can ask when it comes up, but I'll ask because you're so well tuned into all this. So the Clatsop Community Action Food Bank.
The regional food bank.
Yeah, so, we have 3 separate organizations, all as food banks that are requesting funds. So what's their, and I could ask them, but I'll ask you, what's their role in it and what are they providing?
Sure. It's a kind of a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So you have the Oregon Food Bank sits up here.
Right,
Each one of your counties has a regional food bank, and that's what CCA provides. They're the regional food bank. So then underneath of them, you have all of the partner agencies. So St. Vincent de Paul, our pantry, Cannon Beach Food Pantry, food pantries up in Warrenton and Astoria we're all considered partner agencies. Helping Hands, I think, is a partner agency. So we're all just down here. So we're able to receive product from Oregon Food Bank, the stuff that comes from Oregon Food Bank down to the regional, and that gets parsed out to all of our pantries.
so they aren't providing food directly in the manner that you do. They're providing resources for you and.
So yes and no. Yeah, they provide food to all of our pantries, but they do serve out, I believe on Tuesdays, at the, right there at their location as well. They have a, they're able to serve out there. They do a lot of the fruits and vegetables, so they'll have the fruits and vegetable trucks, a truck at different locations throughout the county at different times through the summer.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right, I'll switch my other hat around. So my other request tonight is once again for our scholarship program through the Sunset Park and Recreation Foundation. And this is a program that I have been involved with for almost all of my years with the Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District in one way or another. I spent many years with the first part of my duties with the Park and Rec District as an instructor. So I taught pottery programs, did an after-school program. And through that experience, I actually had the opportunity to interact a lot with a lot of our scholarship recipients. I had a number of people in my pottery program that were only there by the virtue of being able to get a scholarship. Since that time, I kind of moved into a position where now I work more directly with the scholarship recipients, and in that their paperwork always comes across my desk, and I'm able to call, communicate with them, and that part of it. And also with the fundraising piece, interacting with our foundation board, which we have a really amazing 7-member board right now, very highly active with our foundation. And it's really amazing to see those folks and talk to them directly, follow up and get feedback on how their experience has been, what kind of change that's made in their life. These are all folks that live at or below the poverty level. And so if we look at the chart that I included in your packet as well, actually, this is the allocation. This is how the scholarships are distributed. One of the things that really strikes me is the big change in this allocation. A number of years ago, you used to see more of the passes, more of the swim lessons, and a higher percentage in the community and senior programs. But it seems to me over the past 5 to 6 years, we've seen a huge shift to a higher percentage of the youth programs. So if we look at the chart, 73.13% of the scholarship funds now go to families to find a nice safe place for children to be either during those preschool hours with the preschool program, now our infant and toddler program, after school program, and our summer camp program. So last year we gave out just over $19,000 in scholarships. It was a little higher than the prior year. Prior year's number came in about $15,500. So we had about a 26% increase in scholarship requests this year over the prior year. Almost all of our funding comes from requests, just like this one, and then the remainder of that is made up with fundraisers put on by our foundation. Some of you might remember the Sweet Fair event that Park and Rec used to put on, foundation used to put on. Then it became the Sip and Saver, and then we had our final one 2 years ago, the Ship and Saver, where it kind of sailed off into the sunset like the Titanic. Since then, my foundation board members have been working really hard to find another fundraising avenue. And last year they settled on a Hood to Coast fundraiser. So using the old Broadway Middle School and being able to provide a place for showers for runners, places to park, a little bit of something to eat in between time. So it turned out to be a really amazing fundraiser. We garnered about $5,000 or just a little over $5,000 from that fundraiser. That really helped make up that gap in funding. Other avenues brought in about 15. This 5,000 really made up the difference. So scholarship program, absolutely amazing, and we really appreciate your support from last year. And I also have to say, I know things are really tight again this year. A lot of uncertainty at the federal level. We are absolutely thankful for anything that you can provide this program. So
I had a question on the scholarships. So they take the form of like a year-long, hey, you can come use.
We do that quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can, usually if someone comes in partway through a quarter, they'll get approved for this quarter and then, the next quarter.
Okay.
And then, you know, we do reach out or we can review that. And then usually after about a year, we have to get some new paperwork just to make sure that nothing's changed with, the financial situation and then we move on from there. So.
I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah.
I am getting to be an old lady, so I don't always remember things exactly right, but it seems to me that last year when we were talking about your request, childcare was one of the services. Is it just after school, keeping?
Childcare program is really, the youth programs is kind of an all-encompassing.
Okay.
Childcare,
Okay.
so preschool, obviously, you have morning preschool. There's an aftercare component that's kind of built in for that, to that for all day care. So yeah, infant toddler care, then the elementary school program, we call it the zone, it's an after-school care. And so, again, so parents get off work.
All right, well, thank you for
Yeah,
proving that I'm not crazy.
not at all.
Although, well, that doesn't really prove it, but.
Is the majority of the funding, whether it's scholarship or fees, is that really for your staff to provide these services?
Correct, yeah. So the scholarships are provided, the folks that take part in the scholarship program generally see a 50% discount on those services. Although we have a couple that are grandfathered in from, maybe 10 years ago, might see a 75% scholarship discount. And then there are those folks who have a little higher income that will see a 25% discount. We follow the USDA guidelines for poverty or for free and reduced meals. So those that fall in the same categories for reduced meals will kind of fall in the 25% category, where those people that are at a level to where they would qualify for free meals. That's our 50% discount. So,
Thank you.
yeah, Eric.
Darren, so in your budget for 2024, you have other income and interest, you gained $100,800 that wasn't budgeted for. Where did that come from? That seems to like pretty good surplus.
Well, so not every bit of those dollars. So yeah, the foundation budget can be a little bit misleading because we have some areas in there that are, where that money is earmarked specifically for a certain fund in there. So that might be in there for funds that are being held for another piece that's going on, another project or piece that's going on in there. So that might be a little bit misleading. Not every bit of the dollars that come in are able to go directly to the scholarship. So that's why you'll see other income and interest. But that interest may be from, I think we have some money sitting in a nation's financial account that is gaining interest.
But you could have gotten $100,000 worth of interest.
No.
You got a significant.
Yeah, I would actually have to go to my finance manager and have him drill down and figure out what got put into that particular line. So it may be something that should have gone, a grant or something that should have gone up into the grants.
I was gonna say similarly, your grants column had a significant shortfall. And then for your adopted budget for this year, it's back up to $80,000. Do you have any idea of what happened last year that you didn't gain those grants and why you think you'll get them again this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, grant opportunities come up, and others don't. So I think, in all of the grants that I wrote last year, I probably wrote, if you look at put a dollar amount on it, it was about $325,000 worth of requests out there. There were only about 3 grants that I didn't get, but between those 3 grants, that was about $240,000 that I didn't get. So some of them were a high dollar amount. So hopeful numbers, but didn't quite get there for that project, but.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Darren?
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank
you.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I know you're from the food bank.
Oh,
Please.
Yeah, I'm Chris Bell, and I'm the president of St. Christopher, food pantry here in Earhart. We're on North Coast Plaza, right behind, the daycare center. We are open Mondays and Fridays from 1 to 3, and the last Saturday of the month from 11 to 1. We used to be open on Wednesdays, but since COVID, a lot of our volunteers who are retirement age did not come back after being gone for over a year. So we just don't have the personnel to be open at third day, although the need is out there. Just as Darren said, we have about the same amount of poundage and things like that we get from the CCA and from Costco and Safeway, which we pick up ourselves. But as you can imagine, the need has just grown and grown and grown, and we cannot keep up. So we get, we put in a request to the CCA, and we get free food with USDA, and then we buy food from them to try to make up the difference. And I don't know if you've been seeing on the news, the USDA contribution has been pretty much dismantled. So like just this last couple of months, we're missing 9 semi-trucks worth of food that out here, just in the county area, that were scheduled to come, that is not coming. So there's no way that we could buy that shortfall. And that's one of the reasons that we come to you. We are a volunteer agency. There's no one paid. There are 35 of us. We do everything except pick up the garbage. You know, it's just a wonderful gift that most of us feel we're giving to the community. We give out a box of pre-packed staples to every family or individual that comes in. It used to weigh about 38 pounds, but now because we can't get some of the stuff that we were used to getting, it's about 32 pounds. And then we have a shopping area where people can come in and they can choose from things that we have that were donations. So they can pick out produce, they can choose meats and things like that fit their family's needs. I think the biggest telling number that I can give you is that last year we had 300 new families coming. And this year, as of the 12th, we already have 131 new clients. So without the help that you gave us last year and the help we hope that you can give us this year, we don't know how long we can keep providing this service. These are people with young families. They are an increased number of people on senior citizens who you have to choose whether they're going to pay their electricity or they're going to buy food or they're going to get medicine. The stories that you, and I'm sure that all of you hear every week when people come in, it's heartbreaking. And personally, I feel that if people don't have enough to eat, are constantly worrying where their next meal is coming to feed their kids, then they're not going to be great citizens for Earhart in the local county. You need to be nourished in order to provide for yourself, for your community, for your children. So anything that you can give would be a gift. We will only use money from this grant, if we get it, to buy food. We have other ways of, and we'll do other fundraising and stuff to get our rent and our electricity and all that kind of stuff. But this money will go directly for food. There, any questions?
Do you have people who come back on a weekly or monthly basis, or
Well, we ask that you only come once a month unless you have a food emergency, because we just don't have enough to provide. In the heyday, this sounds terrible, and COVID, when the government was just giving us food, we could hardly do anything, we would let people come every 2 weeks. But we just can't do that anymore. The need is there. We remind them of the other food banks. The regional food bank does, as Darren said, on Thursdays, for produce, and sometimes meat or anything else that they might have extra, and they can go there once a week. But for most, I don't know any food bank that does, doesn't ask people to only come once a month, you know? So there's no way that we can feed people if they don't go and see someone else. You know, it's just, it won't last a month. We don't have that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yes,
Are you want me to wait?
yes, yeah, go ahead and let us know who you are, what you are today.
Well, I'm Alan Evans, and I'm here today for Seaside Hall. You should have paperwork there. Yeah.
The Yellow House.
All right, perfect. And if all this stuff didn't make it the proposed budget for this year, I have some copies right here. If everything didn't make it over. Seaside Hall is the nonprofit that runs a little house down there called the Little Yellow House. Little Yellow House has been here. A little story about it was built in 1905. And in 1985, the church next door offered that up to rent to a group of alcoholics who said it'd be nice to have meetings in a place where people can come if they were struggling from alcoholism and addiction. And they started a nonprofit at that. It just celebrated over 40 years, and it serves as an opportunity for people to get help for alcohol and drug abuse. I'll tell you a little story about it. 25 years ago, I dragged a bag of clothes down the street after being homeless for 27 years. And when I got arrested in this community, the first thing they asked me was go to the Little Yellow House. That house saved my life. That's why I'm here today. You might know me from my other job. After changing my life 25 years ago, I started a little program for the homeless here in Clatsop County. And today our organization, Helping Hands, has 11 facilities and provides over 600 beds to the homeless. And I would not be here talking to you about this situation that I'm asking for money for today if it wasn't for this little place down the street being available to help an old knucklehead like me realize that I had a problem and I can ask other people for help. This is a real important stage in this community. Oregon is number 2 in the nation for needing accesses to treatment and mental health. And we're 48th in the nation for providing that. Access to treatment in Clatsop County is nearly impossible. And what I can tell you is having a place that has meetings multiple times a day for a person to go if they're struggling just to stay away from a drink or a drug. There's nothing more important than this little house that's right down the street in this community. It serves this community. I know it because I got arrested here 25 years ago and I was sent to that place to save my life. And there's not a time that I'm not working with the homeless in this community that I don't recommend the same thing, whether it's here. After 25 years ago, dragging a bag of clothes and that saved my life. I'm a homeowner in Gerhardt. Both of my offices are in Gerhardt. If people in law enforcement or the city or anybody comes to us, the first thing I do is send a person to that little ale house down the street. Now, while our organization don't own that house, it's leased to us for a minimal amount of money every single month. I can tell you if you have houses built in 1905, it comes with issues. And this year what we're asking for is we've had some leaks, we have some other issues that are happening there, paving in the parking lot. We provide thousands of meetings a year in that facility, having a safe environment for people to get up through the front door in a parking lot, fix rot in the building, paint, roofing. That's what we're here for. And that's the reason this year I'm coming and asking. It's a little bit of a healthy ask, but it's stuff that's needed to provide the services in this community. So that's what I'm here today. And I'll answer any questions, Jeff.
Anyone have questions?
Who else are you targeting to help with your capital improvements?
Seaside, Cannon Beach, Gearhart, and Foundations this year. I joined on as the treasurer just before the beginning of the year. Because of the fact that it needed some assistance, and being that I am a professional panhandler and with a story, we'll be asking Foundations this year too. But this is one of those odd years that we're asking for a little bit more to take care of some of the stuff, because we're open every single day, all year long, rain or shine. And if you've been by the house over the last year, you can see, push your hand through the carport, and there's, the cover places. We've done a lot of stuff over there already, but it's truly needed, and we're reaching out to any resources that.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other, there's someone online? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Jesse, are you here to testify as well?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Jessie Jones, and I am the new Executive Director of the North Coast Food Web in Astoria, Oregon. And I wanted to thank you for giving our organization funds last year. And we are here tonight. I am representing our organization, and we are asking for $5,000 to support our programs. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview, and then I am available for questions, of course. We have been around since 2011 in Astoria, but we serve the entire North Coast region. Our mission is to cultivate a resilient and equitable food system by supporting producers and improving access to local food. We primarily serve rural small businesses, including farmers, fishers, ranchers, value-added producers, and restaurants within 100 miles of Astoria. And we support local producers through our three main programs: food business development, market and food access, and community education. It's more important than ever right now to discover the resources that we have in our own backyard. And so we are working to make these resources familiar and available to our local community. And it takes a team to build and implement this. It takes a team to meet the farmers, to meet the producers, and also to provide food access. One of the things that we do is we build relationships between producers and customers. So we do a lot of outreach to farmers and local producers, and also to customers, sort of connecting our local fruits and vegetables, fish and meat with our local consumers. One of the things that we do as well is we have a food access program. So like many others here tonight, we have seen an increase in food needs. So we serve many. We serve food producers. And like I said, that's our local fishers and ranchers helping to sell their food. We only take 10% of a profit. So 90% of the money of all of our producers that sell in our online market goes to those producers. So we are accessible to those. And a lot of those are small producers. We also help those who want to buy local food. We also help those who would like to buy local food, but they can't afford, or they don't speak English and they don't know how to get it. So what we're asking for specifically this year is we want to provide food to more low income and to our Hispanic speaking community. About 10% of the North Coast, and it's probably a little bit more than that, I'm looking at this, identify as Hispanic Latino, but there are a few local food resources for them and available in Spanish. And we have 2 staff members who speak Spanish and are a part of our market program. And since 2023, we've worked to increase our bilingual access to our market. I wanted to mention as well that we have more than 80 market customers. So our customers for our online farmers market come from all over the region, and 80 customers are actually based in the Gearhart area. And all of our producers are based in the North Coast region. We have products that are local to Gearhart within 100 miles. And also So we also provide one-on-one technical assistance, and what that means, you might have seen this in the grant, is we help a small producer, whether they be English speaking or not, if they want to create a project, a product and bring it to market, we help them do that from the very get-go, working with the Small Business Development Center at the college and working with our staff. So we do a lot, and we are grateful for the support that you've provided us in the past, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
I have
Yes.
a question. I was looking at your website and you haven't changed anything as far as moving away from Marine Drive. You're not there anymore, your location.
We signed a lease in April, and we are in the process of moving to 1450 Duane Street. So our lease was terminated in our current building at 1152 Marine Drive, but we are in the process of moving, and our last day in our current location will be on May 29th.
And I'm just curious, can you name any local producers around here or businesses that receive your help?
Yes, and I have that on another sheet. So in Cannon Beach, we have Pie Girl and Pie Guy, Irene Hare in Arch Cape. We have Angora, Peak, Granola. So these are all a little bit further south than you. Garibaldi, we have Hot Winter, Rockaway, North Coast Micros. Nehalem, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 farms. So we have many that are either going through your community, but I'm happy to get you specific Gearhart, not customers, but vendors, but we do have customers. One of the things that I noticed from our list of metrics is a lot of our customers actually do come from Gearhart, but I don't know if there's an actual business in Gearhart, but I'm very happy to get that for you first thing tomorrow if you would like to know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our screen is changing. Is that my vision or
No.
it seems to be fading?
Not just you. Thought it was me too. I had a question. Part of the grant looks like you want to conduct more educational workshops. Can you give us a sense of the quantity, the number of that you do now and what they cover?
We had about 15 workshops this last year, and they cover everything from how to do a hot water bath, so for just any kind of home cooks, to how to market your business. We just this month, I think on the 31st, we are working with some consultants in food science with some of our producers who have been working in our kitchen and beyond. So kind of all of it, from cooking classes to actually to business classes, marketing, food science, even soil health, that type of thing.
Can you tell me how many employees you have, please?
We have 6 employees right now, and 2 of them are leaving in the next 3 months. So I'm calling it a natural attrition. Our staff is getting smaller. We are actually sort of refocusing, and we are shrinking a little bit in order to do more, just because of what is happening with losing our facility. We are actually losing our commercial kitchen that we invested a lot of money in over the last 2 years. We are the only commercial and commercially licensed community kitchen in the North Coast region. So it's a bit of a heartbreaker, actually. We will be keeping our online market going. What we are doing, though, which is interesting, and this is just in the last couple of months, we've had to do some really quick thinking. I started this job a little over 3 months ago. What we've decided to do in the meantime, since we won't have a commercially licensed kitchen for our number of producers that use our kitchen, is we are starting something called the North Coast Kitchen Network. And what that means is we are working to do some ground truthing to find all the underutilized kitchens in the region, not just in Astoria, to find out who has kitchens that the public can use. We only charge $10 an hour to use our kitchen. That's what we've charged for our producers in the last few years. And it's a great price for somebody who has a small business. And I want to continue that. I don't want that to go away. So what we're doing is my kitchen manager, who now, because we're losing our kitchen, but so he's now a program manager, Andy Catalano, some of you might know him. He is working with me and we are finding those kitchens. We've already placed 4 producers. And I love this idea because we are not just, letting more people know like who we are, what the food web is, but we're building partnerships and we're finding those kitchens and in a way actually being able to be more of the food web that is in our name, stretching beyond Astoria and moving down to South County. So we're looking for kitchens in the Gearhart area, Seaside, Manzanita, and also a little bit north of us as well. So if you know of anybody that has a kitchen that they're not using or has a kitchen they're not using during the weekends or in the evenings, please let me know.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other presentations tonight? Is there anyone here who is in opposition, presentation by an opponent to anything happening tonight? All right, at this point, I will close the public hearing. It is 3 till 7. What I got. Thank you for coming, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I would like to do tonight is move next to, do we have any public comment on the proposed budget programs and services? Is there anyone online?
Thomas Teets? No.
Right, okay. I will close public comment. Oh, I'm looking at the clock. What I'd like to do is that Justine has a number of things that she wants to go over with us. Some adjustments, some changes to the information. I'm thinking we'll have a break after her presentation. And then we'll return to have our discussion and continue on with our agenda. That sounds okay with everybody.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have just a few technical spreadsheet calculation adjustments that I want to talk about. I'm going to be talking from this document. I put them in order of page number. They're not in order of how I'm going to be talking about them. Because the technical spreadsheet calculation errors, the first one is on page 27, the state revenue fund. So it's the 3rd page in here, and it's materials and services, line 18, street lights, $28,000. In the proposed column, the $28,000 was not included in the calculation. So if you actually physically added that column 14, lines 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, it does not equal 209,000. So the solution was to reduce line 15, purchase services by 18,000, and reduce line 17, building maintenance by 10,000. And so it didn't impact the total budget overall. We just adjusted those so that the column actually did balance to 209,583.
This was essentially a software error that's being corrected.
Just to get pulled down. The Gearhart Road District, page 50, or Fund 50, page 34. Same exact thing happened. These were new line items. We had added streetlights. We added the beach access maintenance for 2,500. So this was missing in the total line also. And so we just moved it from line 19, purchase services, reduced that amount by 2,500 so that total actually was 56,900. So there was no impact overall. We reduced the amount that we needed in there.
How did this come to your attention that these weren't added in?
Well, normally in one of the processes that I do, I take this budget, which is a spreadsheet, and I put it in our software program. I just didn't have enough time by the time we had our first budget committee meeting, but between the first budget meeting and this one, I had gone through and entered them. And so then I knew.
Seven different tools.
Yes. So I do a double check, I just wasn't able to get the double check done before you guys had seen the first draft. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. And then the other changes, page 35, no, that's not. Page 35, page 36, again, the building structural mechanical line, it was left out, so it wasn't pulled over. It was in the budget, it just didn't make it to this line item. So we put that in there, and all that did is change the 2023, 2024 total budget line, increasing it by that. And that was a new fund that had been added that year, and so the totals didn't move over. But there was no impact on the 2025-26 budget, so it was just a correction for historical data. So those are the technical issues that impact, if we approve the budget tonight, those would be an amendment no matter what. No matter what other decisions we make, that's why the motion was amended, recommended a motion is amended. The other thing I want to talk about is the police bilingual incentive stipend. And I just kind of want to mention a few things. According to the local budgeting manual in Oregon, the budget committee does not approve new personnel, employee contracts, or salary schedules, nor does it negotiate salary schedules. However, it does have the authority to direct the administration to make dollar adjustments, increases and decreases in the proposed budget. At the last budget meeting, Police Chief Gregory proposed a potential bilingual stipend incentive pay option for his department. During the internal city budgeting preparation and process, Chad and I had met, so the budget officer and the city administrator were aware of the incentive pay. However, it was not put in the proposed budget. Police Chief Gregory felt so strongly about it that he brought it to the budget committee. He did not, however, bring you a complete request at that time. He should have offered an expenditure offset that would neither impact the total budget amount nor any other budgets department. After further discussion with the police chief, he had every intention of balancing the additional expenditure costs by reducing his police budget. He wasn't asking me to find the money for him. He was perfectly fine making the adjustment within his own budget. He just didn't communicate that to you. And he did make we did make an adjustment and presented it. He's new to the process, so hopefully we'll come with better prepared and better information for you to make rather than you having to go through and do some difficult things. So it's being proposed that the Gerhart General Fund 1012 Police Department, which is page 6, Personnel Services, line 3, the police officer be increased by a fixed bilingual salary stipend incentive for $3,500 with an expenditure reduction in line 4, salary overtime pay of $3,500. So those two salary amounts from the proposed to the approved would be, one would be increased $3,500, one would be decreased by $3,500. The payroll associated costs, line 5 through 8, will be increased with a decrease in capital outlay, line 28. So we're taking the amount from line 28 and moving it up where it needs to be for lines 5 through 8. There is no impact on the overall budget. However, this is an impact on appropriations between categories because we're changing, increasing personnel services and decreasing capital outlay. But overall, his budget would be exactly the same. So we did put on page 35, it does impact the police officer line under salary, and it does impact the total salary amount there. And then we would also modify the police officer merit or certification to increase that $3,500 down there as a representation that we had added it. And that's what we would put it in.
And then it also increases the tally sheet because we moved from personal services to capital outlay. So the total amount doesn't change, but the distribution does change. So that was his, and I don't know, Chief Gregory, do you have anything else to add?
I think you did a beautiful job.
The only thing I would add is that, again, this is a recommendation and establishing this is the authority of the city council, isn't that correct?
The procedural process of who gets it, to put it in a manual or staff employee handbook would be a city council procedure.
But even deciding to establish this incentive pay, is that also a city council choice or is that Chief Gregory's choice?
It would be his choice to put it, to request that it be put in the budget. It would be the budget committee's decision if they want to allow him to do that.
And ultimately, the city council does make the final decision.
Yes.
Recommendations.
Because you're just recommending to them. So ultimately, yes, all right, they will approve it.
So do we have to, excuse me, may I ask a question? Does that mean we need to make a motion to accept this from Chief Gregory?
No.
We just
we
talk
would-
about it and then pass it on to the council?
Yeah, you would accept this budget, and with this budget, if you accept what we have done, then you would be accepting the incentive.
Okay.
And then we would work on the language for how it's distributed out to the staff member.
Thank you.
But
But
Yes.
we're basically making a motion to accept it as amended. That's the words for as amended
Yes,
that you've given us.
correct.
And to be clear, that was for the 2,500 amount, that's what the employee sees.
3,500. 30,000, that's the middle. He had originally requested a percentage of salary, and I did review several languages. I'm not, as the budget officer, I don't necessarily support a percentage of a salary. And my rationale behind that is because you don't get bilingually smarter usually. Usually you have a talent or a gift. And so it would be a flat amount that you would be giving somebody and they would continue to get that every year that they're working for you versus having it based off of a salary percentage, which increases. So that was my rationale for picking just a flat amount. We know what it is and we would reward them. And that amount could change, you know, if it came and was proposed and it felt like it needed to be more valuable and wasn't as competitive.
May I ask one more question, and you can tell me whether it's more appropriate to ask it during this or perhaps during a city council meeting later, should this budget committee approve it. Is there any benefit to, rather than including this in his monthly or is in his paycheck, to holding the money back to perhaps an anniversary date as a carrot to remain with the department and get that, and then should he leave mid-year, then we would not pay him that amount. He would have to actually stay with us for a year in order to receive that amount.
I think that would be definitely a council discussion if you want, for procedurally wise, what I would say is that it tends to help employees by doing it paid on a pay period amount, because if you give a lump sum, they tend to tax you more. So you end up paying more in taxes, so you actually get less. Whereas if you distribute it more evenly, because once you leave, you wouldn't get it, but I understand where you're coming from with that, so, thank you.
Any other questions about the documents and?
I have just a clarification. It sounds like we could approve a budget piece, but it's still incumbent upon the council to approve the policy, correct?
Correct.
So we could approve it, then it would be sitting there unused.
Correct.
Okay.
We have to have language. I mean, I feel like that's important in the chief's next process would just be getting language. And the language was not complicated and it was a paragraph long, just about identifying how many people get it, who get it, why get it, what languages maybe are inclusive or not inclusive of that, and what requirements are required.
I have no issues with it. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
procedural as much as anything else.
Right.
I was just gonna comment that I think the concept of moving forward with this is, I think, a really good idea. And other industries, educators and others take advantage of that same thing to better serve their customer base. So it's just looking at the requirements of your customer base and determine if something's needed. At least what I'm seeing is a positive thing within this community. I know that's more of the council discussion, but just wanted to say in favor of the concept of this. I think it's a good.
So will this be written to a specific language? Is this for Spanish or?
Right, that, I think that's the council, I think, Chief Gregory would write exactly what that would be, and we would bring it to the council to show you that this is what we intend to do with the stipend.
Anything else about what Justine's covered so far?
Did you have something to say?
I know that you have more.
Yes, I do.
We'll get that.
The next thing I kind of wanted to that I want to talk about is state revenue sharing. I did quite a bit of research on it, talked to a lot of different cities, talked to our auditors, and found out some really interesting information. And of course, your part's going to be original and unusual. I think Kevin Leahy pointed that out. It's just the way we roll. There was no mandatory state requirement that Gerhart put their state revenue share monies into a special fund. That's something that Gerhart did based on audits going back. It happened in 1972-73 fiscal year. And most other cities put their state revenue monies into the general fund. So the entire amount that we put into our state revenue funding is in their general fund, in their general operating budget. The only legal requirements that the city has to do in order to get state revenue sharing is we have to adopt a resolution, which we do every June, that says that we want to accept the resources, and we must have a public hearing to allow the public an opportunity to comment. So the only two requirements, you don't have to put it in a special fund, you don't have to give grants, you don't have to do any of those things. This is just what Gerhart chose to do. In speaking with other local cities, Gerhart is the only one that ties the state revenue sharing resources with local organizational grants. And there is no legal budgetary requirement to provide the grants. Our city auditors indicated that they don't see many cities give these types of grants except for lodging tax monies that are spent on tourism, which they put in quotes. An example is the city of Astoria, who strategically labels their grant opportunities arts and culture programs to promote tourism grants and the promotion and promote Astoria Fund for the promotion, development, and services supporting tourism. The city of Astoria puts their state revenue share into their capital improvement. So they have a reserve fund for capital improvement, and they have chose as a city to put their money there. They were the only one that I saw did something different locally. Everybody else just puts it into their general fund. So I did put a handout in here. These are public documents. I just pulled them off their website. So in their general fund for the city of Astoria, they have the requested amount, and then they have their recommended distribution amount of grants and who they are planning on awarding them to. So again, this is straight out of their general fund. Nothing to do with any type of special fund, although they do have a transient room tax that they have to spend a certain portion on tourism. So it makes sense that they would put them there. City of Seaside, same thing. They are not, I talked to their finance director, and it's not tied to any type of state revenue fund. They didn't implicate that it had anything to do with tourism.
specifically, it wasn't language or anything that would required it, but I put in there, the types of funds that they allocate out into. Cannon Beach also gives out funds. I don't believe Warrenton does. And there's no requirement to do it. So also in the state revenue share fund, the budget has payments to essential reserve funds. And reserve funds are really important. They assist with access to resources in expensive emergency situations, as well as allow a way to save funds for expensive items. Gearhart's reserve funds do not have a dedicated revenue source except transfers. So basically there's no regular money coming into those reserve funds. We have to transfer money into there. Traditionally, Gearhart has been transferring from the general fund. However, as things get tighter, we haven't been able to do that. And so the city has had to make some sacrifices to those transfers. Reserve funds and ending fund balances are also critical to the city's credit rating. So a credit rating is when you go out to get a general obligation bond, it's how they view the financial investors look at you, and they look at your credit rating, which a professional company has to put together. In September, one of those companies, Standard & Poor's, contacted Chad and I, and they needed to reevaluate our bond out rating because new criteria was laid out. So it wasn't anything that they specifically did or that we did, but new methodology was put out there. So 436 issuers were placed under criteria observation, and they warned everybody that for counties and municipalities, expect changes are primarily due to changes in the factor of weighting. So basically they said if you were the same person this day and the next day you were this person, your rating might drop simply because of the methodology they used. Nothing that you could really control. So we did meet with them. They were very complimentary, and the highlights to our report were that yes, they did downgrade us. We went from an A+ rating to an A rating, and an A rating is still really good. It shows that we probably will be able to meet financial commitments, but that any adverse conditions economically may impact our ability to pay back bonds. So that's why they reduced our rating from an A+ to an A.
Just,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, and the potential price of the bond.
Correct, how much you pay for it.
Not just if, but in the price.
Correct, yes. You're much more desirable the higher your rating. That's very accurate. They said Gearhart's outlook looked very stable. They didn't find anything that they felt like was alarming. And they felt like that the methodology did impact us, and that specifically the city's nominally thin reserves and smaller economy was a factor. We don't have a lot of growth here, and so they were looking specifically at debt ratios. And when you look at debt ratios, ours tends to be higher just because we're smaller. So the bottom line is that newly implemented methodologies impacted our credit rating. S&P staff indicated that Gearhart was simply a victim of new calculations and increasing the reserve funds, and our ending fund balancers are even more important under the new methodology. So that's why we had put some transfers in there, although minimal in the state revenue share, they do show an effort, which does count. And putting money into them does increase them. So we just didn't want to forget them. We felt like they were really important. And then my last thing I kind of wanted to say is that I agree with Jennifer that providing local organizations grant can be super beneficial to the community. However, the resources are needed to support the city of Gerhardt's programs and services. Grant applicants were notified in the grant award cover letter that due to financial constraints, the city may be exploring alternative ways to use the state revenue sharing funds, which may impact the amount of grant awards. So we sent a cover letter with the application, and that was a full paragraph in there about anticipating that. We also put it on their grant application, so if you look at their grant application, right above their signature, there is a line item that says in there that the city is anticipating a reduction in funding in our state revenue share. So they should have read it incomplete and signed it, just acknowledging that we may be making some changes, that we might not be as generous as we have in the past. I really appreciate all the questions and comments that I've had in the last couple of weeks since our last meeting. I wanted just to kind of mention some of them so that you kind of know what other people are thinking about. I had inquiries about Gerhardt's permanent tax rate calculations, purchase services, employee health care benefits, the budget committee's role in approving the police chief's request, limiting capital outlay purchases, increasing transient room tax, public restrooms, local organizational grant recipients, the OGEC training, potential impacts and tariffs, feasibility of increasing the building department's permit fees, water rate increases, and the importance of supporting transfers to the reserve fund. So great questions. Love all the comments. So I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who came in. And that's all I have. Okay.
I will have plenty of time for discussion, but are there any questions to clarify what Justine has said before we take a break?
I'm just curious, those questions and comments, do those come from our committee or
Committee.
from the public or both?
Both,
Mhm.
mainly from the committee,
Great.
but a couple of them just came from comments from people who have come in. Just wondered.
Anything else for now? All right, it is 7:25. Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 7:35.
Okay.
No.
So I'm guessing.
No.
Because it's in the way to do it.
I saw.
Don't like, sorry. I noticed that things look right?
Another four sides by boxes.
Bananas, they're computers, right, they lost their logo, they just want a business. So the new company,
You could make this
they could have, remakes, but it wouldn't look the same.
That's too funny.
Don't be messing up because you got that.
They're replacing.
Because we want to keep you there.
Yeah, well.
You know, you're.
Chad, you have to unmute.
There we go. How's that? You got us, Christie?
Yeah, that's fine.
There you go.
I need to be in. At this point, it would be time for any discussion that needs to follow on what Justine has presented to us. I want to reserve the discussion about the state revenue sharing fund separately. Discussion now is on every other part of the budget, questions that you have, things that you want to express about it. This is the time. Does anyone have anything they want to ask or contribute? Yes.
I do. So a couple different places. Christine, you put some language in there about, you know, basically challenging times. I'll just summarize it to that. And then, you know, how are we gonna continue to maintain a budget and serve everybody in the community? So just talking really high level. I guess, just from a humble budget committee and citizen of our area, I think we as a community as a whole probably need to focus on some more income generating opportunities. And that could be business and other things. So there perhaps need to be some kind of either, this is up to council, but committee or whatever, to begin to look at how can we expand revenue opportunities within the community. And that has to be balanced with planning council and all of those kinds of other things, but I at least wanted to put it on the table to say, we can't look at it and say, well, it'll be rosier tomorrow without a plan. You know, whether that's expanding the number of business opportunities, which contribute to the revenue of the city. And I'm really only talking about just trying to find ways to just bring in more money that's appropriate to support the goals of the committee or the city that are in line with all of the variety of opinions about what the city should do. But one of the drivers should be, we need to keep an eye on revenue. And so just, I would say that general comment does not specifically apply to this particular budget, but just sort of a philosophical thing I wanted to express.
Great. I would like to piggyback on that. The two things that are on my mind, particularly are increasing the transient room tax. We have the hotel beds that we have are it's a premium location. Just live here and you know it's a premium location for people to come and visit. And we are charging 7%. We could easily double it. And I had data somewhere in this mess of what other cities in the county are charging, and that's not out of the realm. And also revising the C1 zone to allow the hard liquor sales. I know Carrie and I were kind of hard on that when we passed it a couple of years ago, but I feel like times are changing, and if we would get some liquor tax revenue from that, I don't even know, but if we would, it would probably be reasonable to consider that.
Our tax rate was based probably 20, 25 years ago when Bruce Malton was the city manager, city administrator, fire chief, finance checker, building official. There were 4 employees in the city. Okay, since then, we've got 4 people here in the city. There was a volunteer fire department. Okay, there was 1 public works guy. We have progressed as a city to where we've got employees. Page 2 of the budget narrative just talks about the increase in what employees cost this city. They're not going down, they're going up. The PERS program. Back when Bruce and those guys were here, we had standard insurance. Okay, we didn't have a paid fire chief, training officer. So I think that nobody likes to talk about increasing the tax rate. But the fact of the matter is that if you looked at we used to be the 13th lowest taxing district in the state of Oregon. Now we're the 20th. This includes everybody in the state, every single small burg and community, municipality, everything. 241 cities. Okay. We were the 13th lowest taxing district and the 4th richest community per capita. We're still up there as far as the wealthiest per capita. But the costs of this city keep going up. I'm opposed to hard liquor sales. There used to be a 100-year moratorium on liquor sales, apart packaged liquor out of the store in Europe. Which business is going to come in here and have water? We've got the Sand Trap up there. We got Simon's down there. We got the Mexican restaurant down here. Okay. This is a residential community. We don't, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, unless you want to make this another Pacific Way, another Broadway and Seaside, I think that you can forget about it. I'd like to see more businesses come in here. Okay.
It's a way for businesses to make money.
Well, ask Butterbean how he did with the store for Lowenberg. Okay. This guy, the council capitulated to him. He had a poor business plan to begin with. And it didn't work out for him. And he basically had a tavern. Okay, and then he asked you guys for the lottery. Because he couldn't make it until he get the lottery.
He didn't ask us. He had a liquor license, and so lottery is part of that.
Well, that's another one of the sin taxes.
I'm gonna just jump in. This is an important discussion, but we have kind of a long night ahead of us.
Okay.
And I appreciate you contributing. And you contributing, and I'd like to maybe see, is there anything else, any other points you would like to make?
Yeah, I think that the citizens of Gearhart and the budget committee seriously consider maybe increasing the tax base. I don't want to pay any more, but I think that unless you want to see the city go broke, Rockaway or Wheeler is going broke. They've got a lot more businesses downtown than we do.
Thank you, Preston. Anyone else have anything they'd like to contribute?
I have one question, and it's probably going way back. But does the city of Gearhart own any more property outside going up the hill up there that is logged or we get revenue off of?
We do have 65 acres up in the Thompson Falls area next to the Thompson Falls neighborhood. It is in a watershed area. But yes, we do have acreage up there. It was the old Gearhart watershed, supplied Gearhart with water through like a 2-inch line that used to come out from there.
From there?
Down.
Water line just.
Well, it depends on where you start. Yes, so down below here, up to Gearhart.
So are we just asking for general questions about what we want to do about the budget? Is that what you're doing?
Just questions about the budget.
Or
Questions about
statements
the
about it?
Yes.
TLT, I would like to see a 10% charge. I'm not saying
What's
go
TLT?
transient lodging tax.
Move from 7 to 10.
Okay. All right, let's take a note of that recommendation.
Just to, I guess, thinking on what Kurt was, I like his point that, you know, according to the League of Oregon City meeting training that I recently received, most cities, look at approximately about 2 years from the point when they decide, geez, we really need to go out to a levy, to the point that they actually achieve a levy, if they even do. So it is probably time for us to start thinking about that, and I, for one, would like to see the city explore all avenues before we ask for money and be able to answer those questions. What else have you done in order to cut costs or to generate revenue? TLTs is an excellent suggestion, but to Kurt's suggestion, I think I think we need a committee to do that, and that we not go off into the weeds tonight on that, because our purpose is this budget, but we do need somebody, we should make a recommendation to the council that they start looking at this from that type of a viewpoint.
To explore all the options that might be available.
Right, including TLT, which could be problematic because of the 2003 ruling and the new 70-30 changes and whatnot that are being explored at the state level.
All right, thank you. Anything else that, any other comments to pass to the city council or questions about the budget other than the state revenue sharing? All right, so everyone has had a chance to look at page 25, the state revenue sharing fund, and I know that at our first meeting, Justine was very clear and careful to explain the choices that the staff made in preparing this recommendation for us. I'd just like her to review it, the thinking and the need for approaching the fund in this way.
So it was really important to support our general fund, and with rising increased personnel costs and other costs, we have a lot of expenditures that are expensive and require a lot of upfront purchasing. So we looked at the state revenue funding and we saw it as a revenue source where we could take some things that we felt, the city staff felt, were community beneficial and to move them there. But in order to do that, we had limited funds. Our Portland state estimates were decreasing. So we are going to be getting less money unless there is a change, because we're at 1935 now and they're moving us 1905, I think. So we will see less money, and we don't have any reserve funds in the state revenue share fund. So we had to look at how do we move stuff that we felt was important to the state revenue share. We felt like transfers were important because we want them to be supported when we need new equipment and we have emergency purchases, but we wanted to maybe move some there. But then we did feel overall that the community grants were important. So we put what we felt like we could move over there, and then we allocated an amount for, in the proposed budget for the grants, knowing that it may be difficult to make some decisions if that was approved by the council. But we wanted to start out the discussion, that's why we did it. We wanted to start the discussion tonight is how the budget committee felt about moving forward with making the proposal that we made, so we can get that accomplished first. So does the budget committee agree that $8,100 is how we're going to move forward with allocating the grants that have been submitted?
That's the topmost that is being suggested as the amount?
That is the top most that's being suggested.
And do you have a breakdown on what?
We have a suggested starting point. What Justine wants to do is gather a consensus for moving forward to decide that figure, that 8,100, if that's the decision. And then once that, if we can reach consensus on that, we will then proceed to divide everything out in terms of the grants.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
For everybody?
So I'd like to clarify something. So on page 25, so this total state revenue sharing is roughly $32,000.
Correct.
Rounded.
Yeah.
And so you're proposing that we're gonna distribute $8,100
Correct.
to these organizations.
Right, so
And we've got 7,500 going to transfers for reserves.
correct.
And so, that 7,500 and the 8,000 for the grants is 15,000. So where are we allocating the other, roughly $17,000?
So 3,000 to community celebrations and events,
Okay,
10,000 for materials and services, 1,000 for community care.
yeah,
Can you detail the materials and services for us?
That was in my budget, dog bags, dog porta potties,
Yeah.
dog bags and porta potties, we
Right.
moved from the general fund.
so that's, say that part again, is that 3,000? I'm sorry, say that part again.
The 3,000 is for 4th of July
Yeah.
celebration
Yeah.
and the street dance, we
Yes.
make an annual contribution to them, that's
Now, we've done that before out of this fund.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's the 3,000. The
Okay.
10,000 was moving the porta potty that is
Um,
here in town
Yeah,
that we keep.
Okay.
And the mutt mitts, the dog disposable
Right.
bags,
right,
moving that. Community care is for, it was in the police budget, we
Right.
moved it, it's, somebody needs gas. Normally, the police department deals with most of those people, they have a flat tire and they
so
can't
we
get out
took
of
that
town.
out of the police budget to reduce their budget,
Correct.
and we wanna put it here.
Correct,
Okay, so the $10,000 under materials and services is just, body material, not porta potty and poop bags.
literally,
Like,
some
that's
form
the
of
10,
waste.
that's the, yes, that's the 10 grand, we don't have that going to something else.
Correct,
Just those two things,
correct.
okay, got it, okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
that clarifies it, thank you.
Any other questions for Justine about this?
And I know before we had a mayor's discretionary fund, is this in the same category or was that?
It
moved
would
around?
be in the local,
We'll address that when we're doing the grant.
but yes, it
Okay.
would
Grant
be in
amounts.
there.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, that's.
But it's
that's
not currently a line item.
Not at
in
this
here.
point.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
But we will address it.
So are we looking for approval now to
Yes, can
separate these
we,
allocations?
can we, do we have a consensus to move forward with the revenue sharing fund as presented on page 25 with $8,100 going for grants, which we will then discuss and distribute?
Do you want to show of hands or?
Yes.
Jennifer, before we do that,
Yeah.
I have some concerns about this upcoming budget. Gerhardt's never really experienced anything like this budget that we have, where everything is so tight. Generally, there are some discretionary things, as things would come up in the city, to where we could say, yes, we have a little bit of money over here, and we have a little bit of money over there. This year seems different. I don't know that we have that discretionary money to take care of things that pop up in our fire, police, public works, and whatever. Public works is in decent shape. Parks, though, are not. The water treatment facility is working on its own, but the rest of this budget is very tight. I know how important these community programs are and how good they've done for Gerhard. Some of them are near and dear to my heart. That we're facing these ongoing situations. I'm concerned about giving really any outside grants from the city right now to import, this will impact our core functions and operations. I would prefer to take that money and put it into operations if we could. And I had discussions with the staff, and I understand the $8,100, but this is getting pretty tight. I would think that maybe we could explore some other ways to show support for these folks by maybe helping them get some volunteers, advertising for them and that sort of thing. And then we can revisit this as the city gets stronger down the way, but I think we need to be cautious about any external contributions. Just want to put that out there.
So Chad, can I just ask you, so do you really feel strongly that the $8,100 would be beneficial to hang on to?
I would,
I mean, it's not a very big figure.
that's where we're at. And I'm not saying that this is, an absolute emergency. We're doing better than most communities in Oregon. 47% of Oregon communities are in the red. We're not there yet. That being fiscally conservative is one thing, but with the way that we've done the budget over the last 3 years, we've just been narrowing it down to where any type of crisis or situation that comes up, we're struggling with how to take care of it. And again, I love all these people that have come up with these grants and the beneficiary of one or two of them in the past, but I think that this should be done carefully.
Let me follow up with I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I'll make a suggestion. What about if we go about it backwards, Jennifer, and look at the applications, and rather than say we're going to allot 8,000 or 6 or 4 or 0, why don't we look at the application, say, should we give this group any money at all? And if so, how much? And then see if we want to, if we come up with some sum, well, we'll allocate $2,000 or 3 or 4, and look at each individual application and see if they're worthy of anything at all and how much, and then see how much that would add up to. Kind of go at it, kind of construct it from the bottom up rather than the top down, so to speak. That's just an idea.
Okay, Sharon?
I think we really need to decide first and foremost is whether we're gonna give any funds at all before we launch into that.
I want to ask Chad a clarifying question. You said that you would, Chad, that you would want to put it toward operations. Does that mean that it would be a total reworking of this budget?
Well, we could put things into materials and services. The goal is to not spend it, right, to get through this. But within that area, there's materials and services for 10,000, which the puppy papers and the porta potty is in. If we increase that amount, the materials and services amount, would give us some cushion. If something did come up where we needed the $8,000 or whatever amount.
So there would be flexibility to use it out of that account, and you would choose that over reserves?
Yes. I would choose that over reserves because reserves can be taken care of in a month's period of time with permission from the council, and that's pretty good. And council's always been great to staff in filling their requests. We'll continue to do that as we need that request. But if there's something that just comes up, that much can be a stress on the city, depending on what the situation of it is that arises. The intention is to not spend it and to leave it there and to have that cash carry forward for the next year. And then as we get on better, get onto our feet a little bit better, we can begin again then talking about potentially dividing that money out in the future for some potential grants. But I think that having materials and services would be appropriate.
So are we not going to have any cash carry forward?
Oh, no, we will have cash carry forward.
Okay,
In this fund,
no, in our budget.
no, we will have cash carry over.
Okay, why don't we get rid of the porta potty? And put that with the $8,000, that would give us twice as much. If you're really that serious about us being that dire, why don't we get rid of the porta potty?
And the dog.
No, you keep the dog bags.
Okay.
Where
But
is
it-
it?
Over on the other side of the fire station.
So,
But I mean, what is that, $7,000 a year?
so
So that's $15,000 for the city. If that is as dire as we are right now, and we're gonna do away with all these nonprofits and grants, let's be hardcore and be real dire. Let's go through it and cut everything.
So does anybody use the porta potty?
A lot of people,
I've used it.
okay, the thing is that as a municipality, you have to have public restrooms. Okay, I realize that you've got them up at the water treatment plant.
Right.
Do Justine and Christie really want people walking in here and using the bathrooms in here? To the fire station, you got one bathroom over there for everybody. The porta potty, I think, is an essential need for the community, for people that are using the park, the trails in, art center, everything else, okay?
Does the city own that porta potty?
No.
You know, you can buy it, I'm telling you, you can buy a single for $1,000, just like you see any place.
Mm-hmm.
And you can buy a handicap one, I'm sure, probably about 17, you can look and see, but then you only have to pay for the pump. You don't have to continually pay rent on it, so.
Do they clean it?
Brand new. You just
Yeah,
gotta
they
pay
clean it
the
when they
It's part of their pumping service, they clean.
Yeah.
Probably the regular pump, what, yeah.
Is it important to have it in addition to the public restrooms at the water plant?
There was discussion from the Parks Committee when they put the parks plan together and the parks over here, that it might be nice to have access for little kids. Just so they don't have to go as far when they're on the swim year, it's a kind of a desperate thing. It wasn't a requirement, but it was just brought up.
So I want to follow up again, I want to make sure I know who's in charge of what. Is the decision whether to retain the porta potty with the budget committee or was it with the city council?
The decision to allocate the funds in materials and services would be a budget committee decision. But the city could stop the porta potty at any time without the budget committee's permission. That makes sense. You're allocating money so that we have it in order to pay.
But if we zeroed it out, then the city would be able to.
Correct, if you zeroed it out, we would not, if you said, no, I want to move that 10,000 down to local organization grants, and so it becomes 18,000, we would then we would send the porta potty away and have no money to.
All right, I understand, but I thought our discussion started because Chad feels that we can't even give the 8,100 out this year, or it would be prudent not to.
That's his suggestion.
And so if we're discussing the porta potty, was it to increase the grants or was it to replace money? I'm struggling here.
I think it was just Eric asking what the 10,000 was for.
Okay.
Just to make a decision of whether or not felt like that was an appropriate use of the 10,000.
But then I think Carrie then suggested that we use that money before our grants instead, right? But were you suggesting that we give out 10,000 or were you suggesting we give out 18,000?
Oh, no, I wasn't suggesting giving any of it.
Okay.
We just put it all
Oh, we just
and
canceled it.
put it in the general fund and carry it forward. That's why I asked if we're gonna have something to carry forward. Because if it's that important that we have the 8,000, we don't give out the 8,000. Then let's do the toilet and the 8,000 is what I was saying. And we'll carry that as money for the city to use if they need to.
Flush them both, so to speak, huh?
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
So basically, you know, a couple, 3 years ago, we had the homeless camp down here on Glen Ave. And in order to be able to facilitate those people to move on, the city administrator used funds, okay, to get the fuel for people's rigs they couldn't move, tires for, to be pumped up, mechanic to come down to get the car started, the vehicle started and everything like that. Those are the kinds of things that I think that he's worried about. If it ever, hopefully not, but if something, a situation like that ever came up again, this would be a perfect place for the $8,100 to go to. That we would have it instead of not having it. To be able to facilitate those people to
Is
move on.
that your intent, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, we used to have materials and services funds of $10,000 to $20,000 in we never allocated anything to it, it was just there just in case. Well, as you see now, we've allocated a few things to it, so it's really not available, it's already spoken for. I do feel, I am concerned that we don't have any wiggle room in case something does come up. Hard to say what that's going to be. But that's the way that Gearhart's always been. And so I'm not calling this a dire situation. But this is tighter than I've ever, in my 14 years of being here, that I've seen it.
I want to give everyone a chance to speak, but I'd like to work toward a show of hands of whether we not make any grants, that all of the remaining funds goes to material services, or whether we do want to make some grants tonight and then proceed to that discussion. I don't know if everyone's ready to vote on something like that. Does everyone feel that they know how they feel about this?
Can I? Before we do that, can we comment?
Yes.
So I think politically, this is certainly a challenge because, and it could give an indication to the community about where we are with the budget. So politically, if you say, I'm sorry, everyone that you applied, we asked if you applied, but we can't give out any money, then it's like, well, they treated me all the same. That's fair enough in my mind, you know, if you just, but then the picking and choosing part of it concerns me. So I just at least first wanted to shape how I would share my opinion on whether we allocate any. I lean more to an all or nothing.
I'm not sure I
So,
understand.
So leaning toward just reserving the funds and moving them to materials and services.
As opposed to selecting a few recipients.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Okay.
you're always going to have to select a few recipients. The ask is way beyond
No,
anything close to what we've got, right?
Yeah.
no. So to speak to what you're saying, I came in here and I think all of us have our charities, nonprofit organizations that we feel strongly about. And we're not all gonna be on the same page about that. So, you know, I picked 6 that I feel very strongly about, and everybody may disagree with that, that's fine. So the other option is to look at all this, say, okay, we've got the $8,100, and let's divide it by, we had 12 applicants. Let's divide it by 12 and give them, it comes out to about $660 approximately. So that's an option. That is an option. That way we're not playing any favorites. Everybody goes home with a little bit. But that's, the bottom line is, do we even give out any? Really?
I don't think there would be anything inappropriate though about putting criteria. Do you feel like that they impact locally more than others? Do you feel like that they have a cause that is appropriate? Or do you feel like they have, I mean, I don't think that that's inappropriate.
Well, that's what we've done in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
We've
Absolutely.
weighted them.
Yeah.
Did they come and
Yeah.
present? Did they feel like that was more valuable? I mean, I think that the thing, it is important to have a criteria of why you would select that, not just because you volunteer with them, you know, but because they have certain specific criteria.
Can you remind me again, where are we at with the allocations or with the grants that we approved last year? Have we even paid those out? Because this is almost like funny money. It's like we're giving out imaginary money should we get it. And for the last year, we haven't even been able to pay out so there's no guarantee we'll even have $8,100.
That's correct. Well, we would have 8,100. We might not have stuff for the other line items, but if we commit, we'll get at least 8,100.
To me, it almost seems disingenuous to tell these folks, yeah, we're gonna give you the money, give them, make them hopeful, they're adjusting their budgets, hoping that they're gonna get this money. And then at the end, we pull the rug out from under them and say, we never got the money from the state, so you're not gonna get it. And on top of what we've already talked about, we've been downgraded from an A+ to an A. And that in a year when we're going to be talking about possibly be talking about bonds and ratings. And then also, you know, the other conversations that we've had, and we've already said, yeah, we need to start exploring additional income. Those are all going to be factors in my decision, so I'm just gonna share that.
Something you said though sparked, I mean, if we don't get the total amount here at the bottom, we're gonna be in an even more difficult position, as Chad is outlining. I mean, if we commit to giving out $8,100 and we get less than 27, 30, I'm sorry, put my glasses on, 32. If we don't get it, then the other reserves, money to reserves, the other things might not get funded, and that would be actually a worse situation.
Okay, as our budget officer and master of money in the city, without your personal bias, one way or the other, in those two positions, do you think it would behoove us to keep the money or to give it away?
As the budget officer, I am proposing the $8,100 because I also feel strongly like Kurt does. I feel like it's dangerous to pull the rug out from people who felt like that they were counting on maybe funds that we were getting, and so I think the phase-in thing of reducing it down, we want to be supportive. We want to help our local community. I'm not opposed to reducing that amount, but I do think that we should scale it down and we should try to pick criteria that we feel benefits Gearhart directly and try to allocate those funds to them. Not opposed to reducing it, but I do think it is a nice gesture that they provide a service and that we try to support.
I did notice that on your application, you did put the 250 and the 500, and I also noticed nobody used the check mark for that. But I would recommend that we use that number,
Sure.
250 or 500. And that would be the maximum that we would get any of that.
That'd take us to around $5,000.
That's if we fund everybody, which we don't
Right.
necessarily have to do.
Yeah.
Could you clarify again where we stand with the grants that we awarded last year and what we have paid
So-
them and what page we see that?
Yeah, over here on the approved column, we have
On
given,
page 25?
yeah, we have given, the third column in adopted budget.
Yeah.
We have given 50%.
And because that's what we received from the state.
Yes, we have one more payment. Well, no, that's because it was just an easy amount to pay. We've received about, probably 60%.
Mhm.
So we paid 50%
Okay,
and let them know that as soon as they would receive our May payment,
yes.
because we'll receive a payment either the last week in May or the beginning week in June, we will pay the other 50%.
Do you have any reason to think we won't get the full amount from the state that we had projected we were
Yeah,
going to get?
I do have
We may
a
not.
few fears, but it's got to be within $2,000, which we would take from the general fund.
Okay.
We will meet this obligation one way
Okay.
or the other.
Do you think it's going to be different this upcoming year?
Well, it will be different,
In the sense
for
that,
no, because I think this is a conservative estimate
right.
for our apportionment.
So we shouldn't work from the standpoint that we may not get the money from the state. That should not be our outlook.
I think that what we've put in there, I think that we should get $32,000.
Okay. And if not, that's something very close to that.
Correct.
Okay. Now, just to be clear, he wants to keep $8,000. He's the city manager and you're the city treasurer, and you think we're okay to allocate $8,000.
I would
You guys have
normally
probably
say
talked
that-
about this some amount.
Yes, and I agree I appreciate where he's going with it. And of course, I always want to spend less money, but I also feel that it would be better this year to
phase out if we're
Mhm.
going to stop doing the
Right.
grants, rather than just
Okay,
cut
cut
them
them
off.
off.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
We've had many discussions back and forth, and this is where we always end up, and we're okay with either way that it goes. I'm just trying to put maybe a next, a bit of an exclamation mark, is that we gotta be careful here.
Yes,
You gotta remember, if you read all the financials, you'll see all these organizations get money from the state, the county, a lot of them are overfunded as far as I'm concerned. And the criteria should be the benefit of Gerhardt. That's the reason we got these funds. Not to some group that's out there 100 miles, doing things. And I can only think of about 2 or 3 here, so it should use some sort of criteria as to the benefit of our community. But they do get funds from other places and,
It
We
seems
don't
like
know.
we're at that point where you would go for a vote as to,
yeah,
do you want to spend any or do you not want to spend any?
We work-
Then
we
go
go
walk
under to
down
zero.
that road.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you for the
So
discussion.
that is a very general question, but let's do by a show of hands, how many people want to put the $8,100 into materials and services for extraordinary circumstances? Please raise your hand. We have Counselor Dana, Counselor Sharon, Robert and Mayor Carey, and Counselor Preston. How many are opposed and would like to at least make some kind of grant funding this year? Counselor Paulina, Kurt, and Carl, and Eric, and myself.
5 against 5.
All right.
So let me make sure,
so
if
can
it's a
we,
tie,
can we maybe?
let's have further discussion, then have another vote.
Yeah, let's do
Can,
that.
can we maybe say, okay, well, let's reduce it to 5,000 or 4,000 that we
Yeah.
give
I mean,
away?
just because it's an all or, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. in
I
other
was
words.
trying to word it as not,
Right.
not any particular number, but do we
Right.
make any grants this year?
Right, it doesn't have to be $8,000 in grants.
Right,
But.
right, do we put everything, do we not give anything out, or do we give something?
Right, so I'd like to support Justine's suggestion. It doesn't, and I'm not suggesting to say $8,000. I just think we should give some of these groups something, because I think they're worthy. And I don't necessarily think it needs to be $8,000, but if we give away $4,000 and keep the rest for ourselves, I think we're showing good faith and helping groups that help our community that need the money. So I think it should not be all or nothing. But I don't necessarily think it should be 1,000. I think we have to just look at it and see how much should we give away and how much should we keep. That's my opinion of that.
Right, any other comments?
Do we give something to everybody, or do we?
Well, we'll come to
That-
that. For
that
the first
always-
question is, should we give any? Then after that, we'll figure out how much do we give.
All right, so should we, all right, show of hands, should we give anything to our grant applications, any money at all this year?
If anybody's vote change.
Conditional, yes, only on the condition that they be somebody who services the people in Gerhart or whose money we're talking about, so.
No.
Well, no,
All right,
that's
we can't do that.
No, this is just, are we going to make any grants, fund any grants this year? Yes or no?
And then we'll figure out the criteria.
And then we will figure out who and how much.
I think
So
we should give some.
are we going to make some grants this year, for the next year? Yes, 1, 2, hands up, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to make some grants this year. Now we're going to
Now we have
discuss
to find out how to do it.
how much we're going to give.
I agree with the concept that it needs to have a direct impact on the local community.
Right?
And I would point out, we've already sort of, quote unquote, split the difference. We started out with 32. We've whittled that down, so that if we're gonna put so much to the city's fund, so we're at 8,100. So when we go from 8,100 to some other number, keep in mind that we've already gone from that 32 to 8. So it's just out there that we've already split the difference.
Yeah.
So I hear Eric's proposal, we're going to do 4,000.
Well, that was just, I would go from the bottom up, look at each group and say, what do they do? And do we want to give them any money, and how much money should we give them? And then add up and see what that comes to. And then whittle from there.
To answer your question first.
What's that?
what amount of money we want to give them.
Yeah, but no,
I
I'm
think
thinking,
Eric's proposing another approach.
which is, like, for example, you're gonna look at, just for example, Trails End. Does Trails End get any money? And how much money should we give them? Do you give them $250, $500, nothing? You do each group by itself and see what it adds up to. Try it that way from the bottom up. That's just a thought. If you guys want to say we're gonna give away 4,000 and then divvy it up, go down from there. So if we look at each group and get an idea of what value they provide and how they present themselves and what their budget is, some of these people have a surplus. Darren from the, one of his two groups, I think it was the rec department. I mean, they had $55,000 surplus. He got $100,000 from somebody that he couldn't tell us who it came from.
All right, so I want to.
But they benefit from the community. Kids from here get scholarships.
They do.
So,
I want to ask Justine, you recommended to me that you thought the process would go best if we had a dollar amount to aim for and then discussed individual grants so that we'd have more success that way. Do you still feel that?
I think that sometimes when you see what we had talked about as potentially distributing the money, the 8,100 out equitably with everybody who gave a grant, which I think was 600 and some, except for the one person who only asked for 500, and then have discussion of whether or not that was appropriate. And whether you should reduce the amount or increase the amount, because usually people feel very strong once they see a number tied there, they feel like that's not appropriate, they didn't come here, they don't have a legal office. They have surplus, they shouldn't be getting anything.
right.
Can we start out with some criteria that will perhaps eliminate tranches as opposed to going through each one?
So-
I might suggest 2 right off. 1, did they show up tonight?
Right.
That's an important one to me. And if they didn't show up, I don't know, it seemed like close to half of them are just sort of off the table. So that sort of expedites things. And the other is, can we quickly identify whether they're impacting Gearhart locally as much as possible?
And or from the budget, do they need the money?
Yeah, maybe that should be, after you get rid of the first tranche, that's the next one, they actually.
Or do we think they do?
Yeah, I would agree with that, except for the CASA people didn't show up tonight, and that's a pretty important service.
We have used that criteria in the past.
Yes, historically, it was very, very important that have some type of local influence. And it was important that they come, that they made an effort.
Yeah. Right.
Some kind of representative, that it just, even if they just came and say, I'm representing five.
I agree with you, Sharon, for sure.
But that is true, Brian, that was a historical.
Yeah.
Motion.
Well, there are 2 applicants in here that actually are in Gearhart. One's the Trails End Art Association and the other's the St. Vincent people. So as far as, I realize that the Parks and Recreation, everything like that passes out scholarships, but so does the Legion, so does the Elks Club, so does, there's a lot of people that pass out scholarships, and for Gearhart, after we supported Parks and Recreation for years and years and years, it was almost like the Downtown Development Act, in Seaside. Pretty soon we got tired of paying. So basically, if you want to use the facilities, we have to pay for it as individuals. It's like the Library Association. So I realize that they pass out scholarships. Gearhart has fewer children going to Seaside High School or Seaside schools right now than they've ever had in the past. So I mean, that criteria to me doesn't even amount to much.
27.
But just for example, the little yellow house, not in Seaside, not in Gearhart, but I'm sure it probably provides services for members of our community.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
as we had with the South County Food Bank. So it doesn't have to be physically placed here in Gearhart to benefit our community.
Yeah, I mean, you have to include the citizens in Gerhard who benefit from these things.
Right.
Justine, what do you think about putting up the graphic that we had ready?
Sure.
And that way we can start.
Christy, do you mind bringing up the spreadsheet?
So what I had.
This is just 100% a
Yeah.
draft.
This was just to have something visual to start from. It displays our state revenue sharing fund and divided it took from the 8,100, which doesn't where we want to be, but it divided everything evenly among the people who applied for a grant. And I wanted to restore something for the mayor's fund. And so there was kind of a leftover amount that was put in there of $505. What are the other numbers on there? I can't quite read it.
So 505 for the mayor's fund, NCLC 645, same with Cedar, TEAA.
Yeah, every applicant is at 645 on that sheet.
With the exception.
500, except for the group that only wanted 500.
Helping Hands and Airport Committee.
They asked for 500.
Yeah, there was one that
Wells.
asked for 500. And that is an allocation of $8,100. I realize that's hard to read, but what we can do now is start eliminating and moving things around. And I want to hear everybody, but I'd like tonight, I would like tonight to be able to come to an agreement. I don't want to have another meeting, and I hope we can reach an agreement tonight about what to do. So let's start with.
Should we zero out the people that didn't show up?
Should we zero out the people who did not show up tonight?
Unless there's an objection to zeroing them out.
Yeah,
Let's do it one at a time of the people that didn't show up and see if anybody who didn't show up is still worthy of consideration.
All right, the first one on the list that did not show up is the Mechanical Watershed Council.
I'll also point out on their budget, they have a plus $190,000 surplus. Their revenue is $965K and their expenses are $775K. They got $190,000 plus on their budget. And they did not come tonight. I don't think we need to put them any money this year.
Does anyone feel differently?
We're the organization that I agree.
Yeah.
Let's
I-
remove the amount from line 6, zero out line 6.
She got it.
Okay. The next one, let's just go to the people who were not here tonight. The next one who was not here was CASA.
Tough, you know?
That is line 10. And I will point out they were not here last year either.
Okay.
And I know that what they do is important, but.
Right, it's very important, and children are the next council member. I would like to keep them on, and it could be one that if there's really opposition to it. But I really think that as a group, CASA is a benefit to the community everywhere.
Why aren't they coming? They know the organization, and they're not presenting themselves?
This budget shows no money from the city of Astoria either. Big Astoria didn't give them any money.
Right,
This budget.
yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it on here for now. The next one that did not show up was North Coast Land Conservancy.
So I have, I'm well associated with this organization myself, but they've got $2 million in target credit funding and a surplus of almost $2 million, which I wanted to ask them about.
Yeah.
And we're the organization, and they've been here before, but they didn't come tonight, and their budget was pretty healthy to me. So I don't have a problem saying we're not this year.
Thank you, Neil May.
All right.
Well, you know, my heart goes out, you know, I mean, that's a great organization. But they're doing well. Yeah, maybe they can get by without us this year.
For this year of reset, it's inconsequential to them to get $5,000 out of a budget like that.
Yeah, they're
That's
only
what I
asking,
look at it.
they're only asking for two.
Our goal is just to get back in there and start having money available for this.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so let's zero out line 16.
Line 16.
Well, hers are different.
Yep.
In a different order.
Oh,
It's
okay.
okay. It's okay. That's
All
okay.
right, zero out North Coast Land Conservancy. The next one is Classic Community Action.
Regional food background.
Regional
Yeah.
food bank.
Not an important.
I would
cause.
rather give it to the locals,
Right,
South
Right.
County or,
right.
St. Vincent.
Okay.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Stuff goes downhill. If they need money, they're more likely to get it from the state than our locals.
Well, they're all gonna have trouble.
Right.
They're all gonna get there.
Right, but I mean, as far as the hierarchy goes,
Right.
the
Right.
North Coast is gonna have a direct line to
Yeah.
asking
Right.
for more help.
Right.
All right, let's zero out Classic Community Action. And the last one, that I have is Wildlife Center of the North Coast.
What about they?
They didn't.
No, they didn't apply. Okay.
I told them, I warned them.
Uh,
Who's that?
Airport,
We got it, wouldn't move it.
that I warned them.
Wildlife Center.
Wildlife Center of the North Coast.
Yeah.
They applied and we're not here tonight.
I don't see any direct impact on the community love nature programs, but
The cormorants are a real pain
there's,
in the Columbia River, okay? They're a pain to the Astoria Magna Bridge.
There's one.
I mean, they're worse than seagulls, okay?
probably not the best animal to try to orient kids to care about nature.
It's not such a good thing for me.
Yeah.
Double breasted.
Okay.
All
Are we
right.
picking them off then, or?
Let's take them off.
Nobody really wants to speak.
All right. We have one, two,
So is
three.
this automatically doing the math for us? What are we doing?
Not yet, we're gonna make an adjustment here pretty quick.
Well,
We
we've
subtracted
subtracted
2,400.
Yeah, you've subtracted out 2,435.
Seven,
So 6, 5.
8, 9. If we include the mayor's fund, we have 9 entities left. Is that correct?
I have 8.
The mayor's fund was maybe not
I
They
got
didn't have a
7,
grant.
8,
Oh,
9.
yeah, with CASA, yeah.
with CASA. We left CASA
Okay, so
in.
that would be 9.
All right, let's start with St. Vincent de Paul. I sense, and I'll just say, I think we should grant them something this year.
Right.
They have asked
I agree.
for probably more than we can do. They've asked for 5,250. Please, someone, anyone throw out what you think we should give them this year?
Well, this year, you know, last year went there and visited. They have a very streamlined setup over here. The director was there for 22 years last year, so you know that they're real good.
All
And they don't get money they don't get their food from the food bank, they have to buy it. And they buy it from Costco, so I've always been
So
for,
are they not getting money from the food bank also?
they have to buy theirs. They're a Christian
The
organization.
regional food bank sells their food.
Anything else, they go to Costco and buy toilet paper and stuff and hand that out, so they don't get like the regional food bank.
So let me ask this again at this point. Do we wanna set a cap, like we're gonna give away $4,000? Or do we wanna just look at each one and see how much we wanna give them and see what it adds up to?
No? What would the committee like to do?
Well, I think if you listen to the presentation, they would be grateful for just about anything.
Right.
You know. I mean,
10% of their asking.
And I was wrong about the asking. Their asking is $3,000 to $4,000.
I think we should be in the neighborhood of about $500 for each and any group that we're gonna give to this year. That was a suggested amount, the way Justin did that. And I think we have 9, we're giving roughly 500 in each group, $4,500. We split the 8 grand nearly in half. We kept 4 for the city and given away $500 to 9 groups that showed up and doesn't use support. If we want to give that much to each and every group, for example, Cedar, I don't think they need our money. They didn't get any money from us last year. They showed up. It's a nice presentation, but I'm not, if we're pinching pennies, I would disperse any to them.
Did we give any money to the North Coast Food Web at all? Yet?
Same thing, they showed up, so we haven't decided on them.
They're still showing 645 in there, yes.
Right.
But they don't do anything to give them.
That's the one that has the personnel expenses. They spend $435,000 on wages and benefits on 6 employees.
Yeah, it's 500 or something, I think.
So are we gonna,
435,284.
And they don't have their kitchens, they don't have all their stuff, it's like they're starting all over again.
so are we gonna get rid of North Coast Food Web at Cedar?
Well, that's being proposed right now.
Anyone have any objections to eliminating Cedar and North Coast Food Web?
No.
So
we're down.
All right, let's take those off. We're down to 7 items.
Can I
Yes.
interject? I do. As far as Cedar goes, I wouldn't mind reducing it, but I would like, they did say that they do have customers here in Gerhard that they are servicing. And so I think that that there could be some value as far as Cedar goes. I'm not saying that we need to get rid of that, but I think that something.
But now they're running a surplus also. Their revenue is 571, their expenses are 558. They didn't get any money from us last year, so they seem to be doing okay without us.
Cedar.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I frankly, Kurt, you asked that question of them. I was sort of annoyed that they didn't ask how the funds would be used, that you twice had asked how are you gonna use the funds in here and it's not documented, and you had asked them again, just a comment, like, if you're asking for funds, tell them how it's gonna be.
So he did answer that.
He said salary.
He answered, but why, it says specifically, how are you gonna use the funds here? So why didn't they answer it here on the application, is my point.
What were you gonna say, Kurt?
First, let me say, I agree with all that, but one thing I do agree with you on is politically having somebody that's in our corner in Gerhard about developing business opportunities within our community that would help potentially bring in additional revenues in the future is good to have. So one small comment of maybe a little something to keep a relationship with Kevin and Cedar, because they help pave a road that we might go down in the future. But whether that's a predominant reason to choose them, I'm just laying it out there as one observation.
So I've been keeping a tally here. It looks like with,
We're gonna remove North Coast Food Web. That's out.
You give.
yeah, it's already out.
50.
So right now we got $3,500 if you did it, $500 for each. If you added Cedar, thank you, that would be 4,000. If you chose to do 500 for each.
Cedar's whole deal was, all the money was gonna go to personal services.
That's what they offer,
do.
right? Isn't that they are consultants?
There's service industry.
Yeah, service and
Business consultant.
They're helping small businesses establish, they're kind of guide them and are a resource for them.
We don't have.
Okay.
Kurt, your point is well taken about the potential future, but still, they're in the black right now. And they didn't get anything from us before, and they'll still be there and they'll still help us even if we don't give them.
And I don't wanna overstate what I was saying.
Yeah.
So it's a reason to do something, but it's only one reason.
But we
No,
can-
I'm not carrying a big flag.
Okay.
They do get 2 to 3 hours of counselor's time per month.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would help.
Oh, they do? We
Yeah.
use their service directly that way?
Well, no, it's part of the board, we're part of their board.
We volunteer.
Yeah, we
With them.
volunteer and represent your
We're
heart on the
already giving
board.
them something.
Oh,
Giving them your time.
right.
I'm just saying there's a relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're a
Right,
part of their.
but we're already giving them something.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
So what do the board members feel
And,
about giving them some grant money?
Do you feel we should leave them in our?
Well, if you ask me who I wanna give money to, it's always going to be to help people. But I do see some value in keeping businesses going and the service that they
Sure.
provide. And that is it is very employee-oriented type service that they provide. They don't give you something, they give you their knowledge and they give you their recommendations and their connections.
Right.
So I can go either way, but I do have to say that I wouldn't be brokenhearted if we gave them some money. I wouldn't have a problem.
But given their budget, do they need it from us?
Well, that is something that I could be persuaded by you all. I really feel strongly that the budget committee is,
So
as a
then,
counselor, that I want to listen to your opinions.
let's,
Eric, what are they, the black 13?
Well, so, just based on their limited budget, their revenue is 571, their expenses are 558.
Yeah, so about their takes.
They've got a surplus there.
all right, let's have a show of hands. How many people would like to leave Cedar in to receive some grant money? You would like them to receive a grant, please raise your hand.
Okay.
All right, they are all.
My hand was not held too high.
I noticed it had been above your shoulder.
No, there are,
Still,
I think there are.
very worthy organization. They
Yeah,
do a
we
lot. We
recognize
should
it,
keep
right.
building relationships
Right.
with them.
Yes, yes.
But you gotta remember, Clatsop Community College offers a lot of this also, economically, training for nothing. I mean, they do. Kitchens, how to cook, that's all provided at Clatsop Community College.
Okay.
Okay.
Chad, would you read off to us who we have left on there?
That have funds allocated
Yes.
to them right now.
Yes.
In no particular order, Mayor's Emergency Grant. Trails End Arts Center. Seaside Hall, Little Yellow House. Casa. St. Vincent de Paul. Sunset Empire Park and Rec. South County Food Bank.
And what are the amounts that are being granted on that chart?
Right now, it's $645 for all of them, except for the Mayor's Emergency Grant for 505. And if I could do a total here real quick, unless Christie, you could do a quick on the very bottom, 37.
3,500 if we made.
So 645 is kind of just a.
4375, I think is where we're at right now.
Yeah, that was just a starting point when we were dividing it evenly. All
Right.
right, so the total is again what we have there?
I believe it's 43.7, yes.
4375.
All right, so these numbers are a little bit more than half of the 8,100. And before we go any further, is there any more discussion about the organizations that are still up there? Is everyone in agreement on those organizations, or do we want to take away any more?
Preston, do you have an issue with the rec department? Getting money?
Which?
The rec,
Park and Rec.
Parks and Rec, do you have an issue with them getting money, staying on? the
Me?
list? Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
That was for scholarships? Is that what that was?
Yeah, I do.
I think they call it the wrong thing.
It
It's
is
not
like-
really a scholarship.
It's more like kind of a subsidy for lower income families that need
Right.
some support for
Mostly
the kids,
childcare.
mostly the programs for the kids.
And I don't know if we have workers who drop their kids there and go on to work. It's hard to know.
We have a couple centers here, the Windjammer.
Yes.
Has families, and there's a couple of, smaller apartment complexes not apartment complexes, but housing units that have families that I know utilize it.
Darren's got it on his application in 2024, $2,742 in scholarship funds supported Gerhart residents.
I think that was the 3,000. Is that what we gave them?
I think
Was it last year?
Yeah.
So almost
Yeah,
every
for
night
grant,
we gave them last
3,000.
year.
Right.
came back to Gerhart.
So it's a foundation though that's connected to Sunset Empire, right? So they get funds.
It is Sunset Park.
It is
It is
Sunset.
Sunset
One-
But it's not, it is a separate entity.
Like the
Foundation.
hospital has same thing. I mean, you got the hospital and you've got the foundation.
Foundation. They are
Gerhart
separate.
doesn't pay taxes to Sunset and we don't.
All right, show of hands, please. Who would like to continue to make some kind of grant to Sunset Empire Park and Rec for their kids programs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, they stay in. Anyone else that we want to discuss? What's up there? We have,
Again, we have a mayor's emergency grant.
yes,
We have Trails End Arts Center. We have Seaside Little Yellow House, Casa, St. Vincent de Paul, Sunset Empire Park, South County Food Bank.
South County Food Bank. Okay, all right. Anyone want to discuss another one of these?
No, but I would say this is a balance between retracting the fund, but yet giving and then sort of signaling for the future and reserving some of the funds that would more appropriately go in the budget. So it seems like a good balance.
Thank you.
I would like to cap at 500,
Everyone would get 500.
including the mayor's fund.
Yeah.
Mayor's fund.
And I've been going, I think, and I'm disappointed that CASA didn't come, but they're an important organization.
So that would be $3,500.
Sounds good.
How does that sound to everyone? 500 for all 7 of the remaining organizations, including the mayor's fund. With $3,500, that allows us to put $4,600 into materials and services. Is that the way that staff would want to adjust that?
That would be the best for us in order to be able to use that in case it came up, so.
All right, and Justine, how do you feel? That's where you would want the money to go.
Without adding stupid bookkeeping, is there a way to track those types of things, Chad, that you had, that sort of emergency fund of gas tanks?
We can give an expenditure, but if we spend it, then we can definitely pull out of that line exactly what we spent on.
Because we're tight / dire quick this year, probably gonna be the same.
You better not see the cookies on there,
Asking for more? No.
Yeah.
As long as I get my word.
I know when to fight and when to pull back. Huh?
Actually, I think that's about that on a
All right, one more thing we need to do tonight, everyone. We're almost done. I need someone to, we're on our agenda, recommend action on the proposed budget. And Justine has warned me that this proposal with the bullet point must be read exactly as written. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve and send to the city council for adoption this budget. Who would like to make this motion? Who can still read?
I'm not shy.
Carl, would you take it over, please?
So I move that we approve and send to the city council this budget for adoption. A proposed motion that the Gerhart Budget Committee approve the amended 2025-2026 budget in the amount of $7,948,836.00, which includes a permanent tax rate limit levy of $1.0053 per thousand of assessed value in general obligation debt service, as well as approval of the amended Gerhart Road District proposed 2025-2026 budget in the amount of $355,040 with a permanent tax rate limit levy 0.0602 per thousand of assessed value.
Do I have a second?
I'll give you a second.
Motion has been approved. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. You don't need to schedule another budget committee meeting. And I just briefly want to say thank you to all of you for what we did here tonight. I know we wanted to be able to do more, both for the city and for the community, but I appreciate everyone's contribution.
No, I'd like to add very briefly also, I'd like to Chairman Gray for an excellent job. Yeah, I'd also like to thank our city treasurer.
Yes.
for-
Thank you. Thank you. And now I need a motion to adjourn. I just realized. I need a motion
To adjourn.
Sharon, second, please. Dana, second. All in favor? Aye, we are.
All right.
Yeah, it's just the right.